To extend a special welcome to T. Michael for being with us today, a friend to all. A member of the board for Arm in Africa, and I could be not more proud to have him as a friend. So we gather today, another interesting gospel from Luke, reminding us about the importance of perseverance. But first, I go back to the comment that the gospel writer telling us that not a single hair on your head will be destroyed. Really? I'm glad I and others, I might add, have made it so easy for that not to happen. I want us to think today a bit about perseverance. As I mentioned, today we celebrate Arm in Africa and our 19-year history of being a sustaining partner here at St. Joan of Arc. I want to tell you a bit about our organization. I'm going to rely on my notes because I have an awful lot of information to share. Today we celebrate Arm in Africa, which is a nonprofit 501c3. As mentioned, we are a sustaining partner at St. Joan of Arc as a result of a long history with a whole lot of parishioner involvement. We have been building relationships in South Africa and more recently in Togo, West Africa, and all this began in 2000. We are eagerly anticipating our 20th anniversary next year and a plan of action to see where we want to be in 5 years as we think about our 25th year, with the hope that our organization will continue to reach out and make a difference. Eagerly anticipating our 21st delegation that will be going, we went twice one year, our 21st delegation that will be going this coming February 15th. Over 200, the majority of which are members of Joan of Arc, have been a part of the delegation over the last 19 years. 200 people. This is our 21st delegation, and as of today, we have 21 delegates who are going to be going this coming March. I'm very proud. We have an extremely passionate and dedicated board of directors. We have 19 on our board who, as far as I'm concerned, their principal contribution and gift to this organization is their passion. You can have all the plans in the world. If you don't have individuals that have it in their gut to make this organization all it can be, that's the great gift I have with this board. So I asked them, as we talked about celebrating this weekend, in 3 categories, what are the things that come to their mind when they think about Arm in Africa? The first one being community. And they describe that as relationships that are heartfelt, connected to the people that bring the life to life, the meaning of Ubuntu, an African philosophy, which implies that our humanity is intertwined. The board and their own individuals talked about commitment, that we have lifelong relationships, engagement of the board members, again, with members of our board who are actually on site and live in South Africa. Our sister Olga, who's on the board and lives in Melangeni. Our brother Spiwo Kapili, whom I consider to be a brother, who lives in and around the Cape Town Township area. Both members of our board who also ensure that we have very strong connections through them with our partnerships. The board also talked about the impact, the excitement, the joy, the love, sustenance, they say, on every single human level. It is, as the board said, transformational for them. Today I stand before you so proud of the board. I also want to remember a member of our board, John Song. He and his wife Jen and daughters Ruby and Lily had planned to go 3 years ago on one of our delegations. And John was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and they had to cancel. The hope was that he could go the second year. They had to cancel. The family honored me with a phone call from John last year when we were in South Africa. John and I decided we were not going to say goodbye to one another before I left for Africa. But we had a phone conversation and were able to say what we needed to say. I'm happy to say this year also, I'm proud, that his wife, Jen, now serves on the board of directors for Arm in Africa. And Jen, Ruby, and Lily will be a part of the 21st delegation when we leave this February. It's imperative to have a little sense of history of South Africa to understand what our experience has been. In 1948, the School of Divinity at the University of Stellenbosch came together to put together a political system called apartheid. They drew on the work that had gone so well in Nazi Germany, using sacred scripture as well as Hitler's Mein Kampf. They developed a program called apartheid, defined as apartness, separateness. White South Africa government would enact new civil laws that legally reduced a black person to be considered only as 4/5 of a human being. It was a system of institutionalized racial segregation. It existed from 1948 until 1992. It was the law of the land. A form of white supremacy which ensured that South Africa was dominated politically, socially, and economically by the white minority government. For the majority of the years that we have been traveling to South Africa, that history sounded so foreign, so distant, so incomprehensible. Until these last several years, as a citizen, I hear the echoes of apartheid echoing in our own culture as a nation. When that hit me most was when I saw the father and the daughter having drowned and died on the banks of the Rio Grande River. And for many in this nation, that became a photograph. No more, no less. Smell the coffee. Echoes of apartheid. And I realized truly that hatred never takes a day off. Families under apartheid were relocated to the bush and began to scratch out a life in what was known as the Black Townships. Bantu education made it illegal to have more than a 4th grade education. Apartheid was the intended virus that would destroy the family system, and it did a splendid job of doing it. The secondary virus was HIV/AIDS, which was my initial impetus as to why I went to Africa initially. That became a secondary virus that ended the lives for millions. Between 1997 and 2010, and very difficult to get accurate numbers, over 3 million Africans, South Africans, died of HIV/AIDS. Even with the medications, HIV/AIDS continues to account for 25% of the deaths in South Africa. In 1992, apartheid officially ended. The effects continue to this very day. Nelson Mandela was inaugurated president in 1994, the first non-white head of state, the oldest to become head of state at the age of 75. In 2000, Pat Murphy, myself, and a small group of individuals ended up in a township called Guguletu. Our eyes were wide open, wider when we got there. Our hearts were open, and thus began what has become a 19-year journey. I want to share with you, as succinctly as I can, the mission of Arm in Arm in Africa. We focus on 3 areas: food distribution, health care, and education. Let me share a bit about our food program. We distribute nearly 2,000 parcels of food a year. Each parcel provides 90 days of meal support for a household that is selected by the neighborhoods. People decide amongst themselves who's the most in need. Our parcels provide thousands of meals annually, and yet hunger continues to be a major concern. Our friend Olga on our board, who lives in Melangeni, has said to us, quite frankly, if it were not for the food program, there are those individuals here who would starve. Spiwo, in his experience with our food programs in the village, talks about the difference when food is available and you hear the children playing, you see lights flickering in the evening, you see the adults relaxed and hanging out with one another. When food is sparse, you don't see lights flickering in the village. You don't see the adults relaxed, you see them tense. You don't hear the children because they have been encouraged to go to bed early with the hope that it would take their mind off of one more day with not enough food. Our healthcare system, we collaborate with 6 healthcare providers in terms of mental as well as physical health, that we have very carefully screened and worked directly with our board. They range from Mother Teresa's missionaries of charity, who care for cognitively impaired adults. We also work with St. Luke's Hospice, caring for those who are actively dying. And last year we developed a new partnership with Sizu Kayenza, which is a women's shelter for women who have been in abusive relationships. They can come to this shelter. They receive a safe place to live, as well as their children. They receive training for potential employment. It gets them set on a new road out of violence. In total, we are in partnerships that support literally hundreds of people in need of specialty care. Education has always been a primary interest for us. We have 3 partners in each of our geographic areas. The FLY program, which is Fun Learning for Youth, is a group of young Black professionals who have been very successful, who have returned to the townships once a week on a Saturday and provide tutoring as well as a hot meal for high school students in anticipation of something after high school, be that university or trade school. We also are working with a group called Touching Acts, which provides educational opportunities for young children living in a township which is probably one of the most challenging places we have ever been. Traditionally called Itippany, they renamed their town to Soweto, not to be confused with the large Soweto up by Joburg. We've been able to create educational opportunities for those students to attend and have room and board and receive a quality education. We're working hard to do more in partnership to that local organization. And in Melangeni, which is home for many of us, is a place in our heart, we're specializing particularly there on early childhood development. The sooner you can get their attention and work with them in a loving way, creating educational materials and opportunities is a way to make a huge difference for them. The St. Joan of Arc Community, and in particular, our Family Mass group last year helped us open a door for a brand new experience, a brand new community in Togo, West Africa. It is one of the poorest nations in Africa, with over 7,965,000 people. Through much of your efforts, and again organized by the Family Mass program, and Josie and Mary Ellen, who attend the 9, they were here this morning, those two members of our parish were key to getting our relationship going in Togo. And everything that we have been doing in South Africa for the last 19 years is all repeatable in Togo. I'm told that 24 large boxes of clothing arrived in Togo. The parish priest there, Father Michael, was scheduled to be transferred to another parish. He wasn't particularly wanting to leave. 24 boxes of clothing showed up through his efforts of organizing on that end. The local bishop said, "I don't think I have any need to move you to another parish." So Father Michael, much to his joy, is going to be staying on. A man after my own heart, I could write a book on that. So we're extremely honored to have Togo as a part of our new relationship. Before I close and offer you some specific examples of how you can continue to make a difference, I need to take a personal break, a personal moment with you today, and have you focus upon this picture. The other day, a staff member came into my office and observed some of these photographs. And she made the comment how obvious it was that the children's dignity was so intact and respected and captured in the photograph. That got me thinking about 19 years on this journey. It got me thinking about different high points and low points in that journey for me. It got me thinking about the value around dignity and what the result of indignity is for people. So part of my retrospection back brings me to this picture. In 2005, I went to South Africa with a bit of a wounded heart, as we all experience from time to time in our life. Felt a little beat up, a little unsure, a little kind of how do I get a whole group to Africa and back at a bit of a low time in my life. The trip continued. We went to what the little garbage dump called Itippany was at that time. And we were rounding up to leave, to get back on the bus. And again, had been conscious throughout the entire time there, just this heaviness that I had about life. And you're surrounded by lots and lots of children This young girl in 2005 came up and took a hold of my hand, which was not an uncommon encounter. What I found interesting was she didn't let go. We continued to walk. She continued to hold my hand. We continued to simply experience one another's presence. Before I left that village, the message that I had by the way she held my hand was, in my own sense of pain, was that everything was going to be okay. Everything was going to be okay. She had an incredible way of letting me know that through simply holding my hand. I managed to get a picture of her that year in 2005. I took the photograph back with me in 2006 because I was most interested in seeing her again. And I pulled out the picture and I began to show it to the adults there in the community. Do you know her? Do you know her? Oh, yeah. Ooh, people just spread. And within about 10 minutes, they brought this young girl to me, who clearly was her, a year older. So this is the picture that I was able to get in 2006, and was able to hand her the doll that I had wanted to also bring her. I share that picture with you because I need to tell you that I really don't know her name. I never have known. I'm actually not entirely sure of her age. She could be 19 or 20 by now. She may have found some relief in her life from living in a garbage dump alongside pigs. What I do know for sure was it was only several years after this picture that the government came in and bulldozed down the entire village of Etiphany. She may have children of her own. In my heart of hearts, I actually don't even know if she's still alive. I really don't know if she's alive or not. Her message to me was, it's going to be okay. I'm sharing that story with you, St. Joan of Arc, because you are that little girl. For 19 years, to people whom you don't even know, you have reached out and held the hand of thousands of people to let them know that their life is okay, and that they are remembered, and that there's going to be food, there's going to be education, there's going to be health care, as much as we can do. I share that because that's who you are. That's how you have continued to reach out and make the most phenomenal difference as anyone can possibly imagine. I'm back again, asking you to even be more bold in taking hold of the hand. I'm asking you to consider recognizing that our programs all need to grow. And now we're in Togo. We have additional opportunity and challenges. I want to let you know how you can continue to make the difference that you have so made over the years. It's important to note, and I'm extremely proud of this, 93% of our programming dollars go directly to end users in the form of food parcels, health care, and educational materials. 93%. Historically, and this again is why you are this young lady. Historically, Arm in Africa weekend at Joan of Arc accounts for 90% of our budget. No pressure, Jim. 90%. That's why you are, and you will always be, the foundation of this organization. You are why we can make a difference in the world. People ask frequently, what can we do? Most of what it is who we are. But there are things definitely, as you have heard, that you can do. I want to give you 3 solid examples of how you can continue to reach out more boldly and hold a hand. For those drawn more to health care, $500 will provide shelter and training for a victim of domestic abuse and also provide a safe place for her children. For those drawn to education, and hear this number, for $300, will pay full tuition for 30 students for an entire year in Togo. 30 students. And for food, $250 will purchase a parcel of food for one family for an entire year. We're going to have 2 collections today. I want to be really clear. The first one is a regular St. Joan of Arc collection. The second one will be for Arm in Africa. On behalf of all those whom you have touched and continue to touch throughout Africa, I extend my sincere appreciation. Thank you. Thank you.